Chapter 20. Are we going to wait here for them to return? Jack asked after they had finished looking through the smelly space. The group rushed back out into the night and breathed in the clean Colorado countryside air. I haven't decided yet, his mother replied tiredly. We still need to take them out, no matter what. Why don't you and Kaitlyn check out the farmhouse while we continue to look around or something? Chantel nodded and waved them away. Go on, we won't kill each other while you're off exploring. Just be ready in case any of them come back unexpectedly. The teens yawned and shrugged. Okay, they said at the same time. Wait, Jack, do you want to carry this? His mother asked, pointing to the gun clipped to her belt. The rest of us have other forms of protection. You might need it. She took it off and handed it over without waiting for his opinion. Just keep it away from bolts of electricity, and I know it's been a while since you last went to the range, but don't forget the basics. I know the 6 basics, it hasn't been that long, Mom. He took the gun and clip holster from her with both hands and put it on his own belt. All right, just be careful. The 2 teens rolled their eyes and walked away. The beams from their flashlights illuminated the rusted remains of old farm equipment as they passed. All of it had been discarded in piles behind the barn, left to rot along with everything else. If the age of the equipment was anything to go by, then this farm had been abandoned for at least 30 or 40 years. It was uncommon, but not as much as people assumed it was. It was a location that was just waiting for some developer to swoop in and buy the place up for their next project. The house rose up in front of them, taking on a haunted quality under their flashlights. The back door was closed, and the glittering remains of broken glass littered the ground around it. The small window in the door had been broken ages ago by some vandals or kids long past. Walking through the glass shards, Jack pushed open the door for them. Shall we? Kaitlyn hesitated for a moment. I know I went into that old school by myself a few times and can't really say this, but this house is creepy, she muttered before going inside. Yeah, it is. Why do you think it has been abandoned all these years? Taxes, or did something happen here? From what I hear adults say in the stores, the IRS is scarier than any monsters. So, I'm going to go with taxes on this one. They probably just couldn't keep up with the rising cost to use their land and had to abandon ship. She slowly swung her flashlight from room to room as they walked, the old hallway creaking under them constantly. Well, I certainly don't see any signs of monsters having broken into the place. Jack brushed across a couple of dusty piano keys. The light pressure breaking one of the mechanisms inside, while the second key let out a dull off-key noise. This is definitely the kind of place that I would find creepy any other night of the week. And now, Kaitlyn tentatively stepped onto their stairs going up. Now? I don't know. My mind is kind of fixated on what we saw and heard before. I think I'm going to need some time to process everything before I can make heads or tails of it all. Well, just don't let it distract you in case they decide to come back early. I won't, or at least I'll try not to. Jack scraped away some cobwebs from an exposed beam and frowned as he saw glints of inlaid silver. Here, help me pull off some more of these boards. I want to get a better look at this beam. Both of them were nursing several splinters by the time they had cleared away enough of the old boards and plaster for him to see. Are those runes? Kaitlyn asked in a whisper. Yeah, there's a restaurant outside of town with similar markings on the pillars. Another group must have lived here at some point in the past. Her finger traced the markings. Back before creating runes became the specialized knowledge that it is today. Is there a reason that happened? Why did it suddenly go from normal knowledge to something practiced mainly by the nobles? Kaitlyn inhaled sharply and pulled her finger back from the wooden beam. It's not, at least not really. There are certain runes, like the ones your mother uses, that are restricted to those trained in their use and construction. The nobles just happen to be required to learn it, at least according to your mother. As for why it was restricted, she hesitated and shined her light on the pillar. This looks like it goes all the way down to the basement. I want to see if they have any more runes down there. Anyway, people do stupid things sometimes for good reasons, or at least that's what I've been told. During World War II, there was a group who thought they could use runes to create a portal to somewhere else. An unknown third realm, similar to where the Fae live. They didn't succeed, luckily, but the attempt freaked everyone out. I bet. What if they had opened up a portal to hell, or something. Jack muttered, freaking out. No, that's already been done. Anyway, I guess I should have said 4th of maybe even 5th realm. Regardless, everyone involved was killed, and then the various magical communities spent the next several years collecting/taking all information on runes from the masses. The stairs creaked and groaned as they walked down into the cool concrete-walled basement. And how successful have they been in taking back the information from everyone? I can only imagine that even with the fear the event caused, most wouldn't give up their secrets willingly. Kaitlyn laughed sardonically. That's an understatement. We're talking about their family's legacies here. Almost no one was willing to give them up without a fight. They burned them instead. A lot of runes and their information were lost in those days. Everyone assumes the families reconstructed the books with what they could remember, but it obviously wouldn't be the full thing anymore. That's sad. All that information just lost. Jack used his foot to scrape away some fallen debris from the ceiling. Have the magical communities relaxed on the guidelines at all in recent years? A little, but there are still enough people around who remember the event and the chaos it caused for years afterward that change has been slow coming. Places like this have instead turned into goldmines of information with potentially lost runes or connection methods hidden in their walls. Maybe not in this particular one, since I don't think this house is nearly that old, but you get the idea. Great, another reason for the council to come down into the area, Jack remarked dryly. He had scraped away a clean space around the main pillar in the house, revealing a small silver rune circle. I think we might need to get our mothers to look at these. Kaitlyn grinned impishly. I don't recognize the symbols at all. That sounds reasonable. Jack waved his flashlight around the dark basement. This is a really creepy house at night, though. Yeah, now come on and let's be quiet about it. I want to hear what our moms are talking about. They snuck uselessly up the creaking stairs and out the door they had left open. Dried crabgrass and weeds crunched softly underfoot as they made their way back to the hill with the cistern. Have things with the council really gotten that bad? They heard Jack's mom say as they stopped outside the rotten door. You have no idea, Chantel replied sadly. All of the old generation are being pushed out of their positions to make way for the younger people. Which sounds fine on paper, except each and every single one of them is desperate to make their mark. They're all power-hungry and more or less above our laws. My parents and John's parents have somehow managed to keep their spots on the council for now. Not that it will do us any good in this situation. They heard a deep sigh from inside. We need them to bond faster. That's the only way Jack will ever be even remotely safe. What about your daughter? Penelope is different. She's special. She has a lot of potential for sure, but she also seems to have a natural bond with Jack. Natural bonds are rare, even among families with generators. I can see why you said before that she was troublesome in her own way. Especially if she has the potential, you believe she does. She does. I've already tested. Even with us starting her training late, her well is only a little underdeveloped, and her power is already decent. Her control is what's lacking for the moment, but that will be the big hurdle for her, I believe. Jack motioned for Kaitlyn to follow him in. He had heard enough for the moment. Anyway, I'm telling you I saw similar ones to those in a restaurant outside of town. He bumped into the side of the wall as they entered, sending a cascade of dirt and loose debris down around them. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying, how can you be sure they belong to the same group? Kaitlyn questioned, getting into the sudden charade. I'm not, and I don't think they do. He protested. What are you two talking about? Eleanor asked as they came into view. We found some runes inside the house, similar to the ones from that restaurant you took me to. Jack quickly described to them what they had found. Show me please. His mother requested with a muttered curse. I'll have to take apart yet another house after this, I guess. Say what? Chantel asked in surprise. What? You thought I was going to inform the council of these runes and let them inspect them? Please, this is my territory. I get to decide what happens inside it. If they don't like it, then they can change the rules, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Do you? Kaitlyn's mother chuckled. No, I do not. Inside the house, they led their mothers upstairs to the first runes they had found, and then down to the basement. I recognized the ones upstairs as warding and protection runes. They match others I have found in the area. However, I don't recognize what this one down here is meant to do. It's the first time I've run into this particular rune. Eleanor snapped a few pictures of everything using her phone and pushed them back up the stairs. I might just burn the house down and take the pillar and slab of concrete afterward. What have you done in the past? Jack asked her as they walked out of the house. It varied from place to place. Some, albeit rarely, like at the restaurant I left alone. For others, I demanded council-provided funds to retrieve the needed portions, and nothing more. Those were usually the houses that were still occupied or close to others. Then you have places like this, where I can just demolish them without the council being the wiser. Which works out for the best, since we are trying to not attract their attention right now. Plus, you get to keep any information gained for yourself, Chantel put in from behind them. There is also that. Eleanor agreed, not at all put out by having her actions revealed to her son. Playing by all the rules won't get you anywhere in life. Your parents showed me that, Chantel. Kaitlyn looked sideways at Jack, who could only shrug. This was a side of his mother he had never seen before. The two mothers bickered back and forth as they found themselves walking toward the car. I'm telling you, I never even saw the lookout here at all. Wait, where are we going? Jack asked, interrupting them. I thought we were waiting here for them all to return. His mother abruptly yawned, setting off a chain reaction with the rest of them. No, we don't need to with this one. Now that I know where it is, I can come back to it during the day when they would all be asleep and eliminate them if I need to. Right now, the question is, do we feel like driving out towards the Kansas border tonight or heading home for some sleep? I think we should do the border tomorrow and leave earlier. Don't forget, it's still like a 2-hour drive to get there from here. Chantel pulled out her phone and lit up the screen, showing the time. It's a little after 1 in the morning right now, so we could make it with plenty of darkness, I suppose. She had been hoping it was earlier than that. There aren't any other nests or problem sites close by? Kaitlyn asked as Jack unlocked the vehicle for them. Eleanor yawned again as she buckled her seatbelt. I'm sure there might be. I just don't know about them. Without the detection spell working on this portion of my domain, things have been slower going. Like I mentioned earlier though, I'll have everything working again in a week or two. So, home then? Jack clarified, handing his mother her gun and holster before starting the vehicle. Yeah, let's call this an early night. I'll use the rest of the night to work on rebuilding the spells inside my domain. Can I get your help with that, Jack? She asked, tucking the gun into the glove box. Sure, what do you need? Just your energy. Rebuilding the spells takes a lot of it, and I've been exhausting myself trying to do everything all at once. For the first time, he was able to detect the hints of just how tired she truly was in her voice. Of course, Mom. I'd be happy to help. Just let me know if there is anything else I can do. Honestly, he just wanted to get some sleep, but he also wasn't just going to leave her alone. Not when she had taken the time to ask for his help. Thanks, honey. Just take us back to their house for now then. She yawned a third time and leaned her head against the window, closing her eyes for a quick nap. Don't let her spend too much time on the spells tonight, Jack, Chantel told him softly once they were back on the main road and speeding towards their home. She may be able to use your energy to fuel it, but using the control stones for her territory will still be mentally taxing. He glanced over at his sleeping mother and then back at her before responding. I won't, thanks. I wouldn't have expected you to be concerned about my mom at all. I don't hate Eleanor, she replied softly. I never did. There was a time when I was jealous and was forced to stay away from her. During that time, I did a few petty acts against her, ruining our friendship, but I never wanted to truly hurt her. What I unknowingly played a part in because of my parents, she cut off as a sob came from the front seat. What did you have to be jealous of with me back then? I had nothing but our friendship growing up, until you cast that aside. Eleanor's hands were clenched tight, as the temperature in the car began to drop. Chantel gave a half-hearted, hollow chuckle. True, you grew up as the daughter of regular magic users. They weren't nobles. They didn't have excessive expectations of you growing up. I don't even remember how we became friends in the first place. Our paths never should have crossed normally. It was during our potential testing when we were 4 or 5, Eleanor replied. My parents brought me, while your butler and a random servant brought you. Jack caught Chantel nod in the rearview mirror. And that is exactly what eventually led to me being jealous of you. Your parents. They loved you, they paid attention to you. They did the things that mine never did with me. Eleanor snorted as the temperature dropped again inside the car. Jack reached over and turned on the heat to full blast. My parents cared for you as well, and you know it. I do, but it was never enough. Like I said, I was jealous. It was almost a relief when my parents told me I couldn't hang out with you anymore. But I never wanted to hurt you, especially not in the way you were. And I still don't know why my parents suddenly went as far as they did. Neither do I, but it doesn't matter. The next time I meet your parents, their lives will be forfeit. Eleanor ground out. Kaitlyn, who hadn't said anything the entire time, suddenly spoke up. But they're on the council. I admit I'm not exactly fond of them myself. They pretty much threw me aside when they found out how small my well was. The experience was eye-opening, to say the least. However, that doesn't change who they are. Eleanor fought for control, the icy layer that had been creeping up her window receding. Chantel, you remember at dinner when you asked how I could suddenly become an ice witch when growing up my main element was fire? Yes, she answered hesitantly, wondering where the other woman was going with the question. Do you remember what my parents' main elements were? Jack's mother had to force the words out. Kaitlyn's hand flew to her mouth as her eyes opened wide. No. Please tell me you're joking, Chantel shouted, the suddenness of her effusive reaction startling Jack. Didn't you ever wonder how I survived? Of course I wondered, everyone did. Who would have guessed that your parents would do something so forbidden though? I'm confused. What did your parents do? Hell, what did her parents do to you, and why was surviving enough to make you a noble? Jack demanded. He was getting annoyed with the constant secrets and lack of knowledge on his part.